Hello, everyone. I'm Adam Pfleegor from Santa College, and I'm excited to present to you today a Scotsman in the home of American golf, Donald J. Ross, Pinehurst, and their influence on modern golf. I'm sad I won't be able to attend in person this year. I'm in the midst of transitioning jobs, but this has kind of been a passion project that I've started recently, and I'm excited to see the culmination of that work with a visit to the Tufts Archives in Pinehurst, North Carolina, this coming year to kind of finish everything out. So I'll start with a background on Donald Ross, including his career, courses, signature design elements. From there, I'll discuss the history of Pinehurst Resort and their signature Pinehurst #2 course. And finally, we'll connect Ross and Pinehurst to the changing philosophy of modern golf design. Born in 1872 in Dornoch, Scotland, Ross, who's pictured all the way on the left-hand side here, played golf at an early age at his local club, Royal Dornoch. It was here that he began his career in golf, working as a greenskeeper for the club in exchange for playing privileges. He quickly became recognized for his attention to detail and his eye for design, and obtained an apprenticeship with famed architect Old Tom Morris at the Old Course in St. Andrews. Old Tom Morris is pictured. And the other two up top with the clubhouse, Royal and Ancient Clubhouse at St. Andrews in the bottom. It was here that Ross gained firsthand knowledge on course design from Morris, who is widely considered the greatest golf architect in history. Unable to obtain a design position in Scotland, Ross began looking to move to the United States, and in 1899, he spent his life savings to travel to the US for his first head job at Oakley Country Club in Massachusetts. A year later, his fortunes changed forever, and as well as American golf, as he moved to Pinehurst, North Carolina, to assume the head professional role at the Pinehurst Resort. Here's a picture of Donald Ross on playing golf at Pinehurst #2. Nestled in the North Carolina Sandhills, the Pinehurst Resort opened in 1895 on 5,800 acres of timbered land purchased by Boston philanthropist and soda fountain magnate James Walker Tufts for approximately $1 an acre. Tufts was convinced that the pine ozone found in the region was a way to cure respiratory ailments as a result of the Industrial Revolution. As the resort welcomed its first guests at the famed Holly Inn, Tufts and staff noticed that they enjoyed hitting small white balls around a cow pasture nearby. Therefore, as part of the resort, Tufts paid Dr. Leroy Culver to design a 9-hole golf course in 1898. A year later, 9 additional holes were added to what is now known as Pinehurst #1. As the game gained popularity, Tufts hired little-known Scotsman Donald J. Ross as Pinehurst's club professional in 1900. After arriving in North Carolina, Ross redesigned Pinehurst #1 to move more naturally with the sandy rolling hills. Following this redesign and the accolades gained by guests, Ross set out to create Pinehurst #2. Ross felt such a calling at Pinehurst #2 that he eventually built his home on the course, named the Dornoch Cottage after his hometown, right behind the 3rd green. It has become local lore that Ross would sit on his porch in the evenings with a smoke and drink to watch the severely shaped green wreak havoc on visitors' rounds. It was here that Ross lived until his death in 1948. Despite all of Ross's designs, it is his 1907 design of Pinehurst #2 that went down in golf history and helped Pinehurst become the home of American golf. Since welcoming its first guests in 1907, Pinehurst #2 has hosted the North and South Open Championships, North and South Men's and Women's Amateur, the U.S. Men's and Women's Amateur, U.S. Senior Open, Tour Championship, PGA Championship, Ryder Cup matches, and the U.S. Men's and Women's Open Championships. Perhaps no championship has had a greater impact on the solidification of Pinehurst as the home of American golf as the 1999 Men's U.S. Open. After a birdie on the difficult par 3 17th, the late Payne Stewart led Phil Mickelson by 1 stroke heading into the 18th and final hole. Stewart had hit a wayward drive off the tee and needed to pitch back out to the fairway. His 3rd shot on the par 4 was a wedge that stopped approximately 15 feet from the pin. In dramatic fashion, Stewart sank the 15-foot putt for par to avoid a playoff and win the U.S. Open. His fist pump, which is seen here, is memorialized with a statue sitting behind the 18th green. These tournaments and moments have added to the lore of Pinehurst #2 and the course, and its signature Ross design elements serve as an important physical representation of Ross's brilliance in naturalist design philosophy. Using this strict naturalist philosophy and signature design elements, such as diagonal hazards, switchbacks, green complexes consisting of turtlebacks, punch bowls, volcanoes, double plateaus, and false fronts, Ross rose to national prominence. One of the most impressive notes about his unique and demanding designs is that he sought natural land with contours to work with and alongside his design rather than move land to create artificial hazards. Part of this was because of the lack of construction technology as well. The following photos that I'll work through here are excellent examples of some of his signature elements. Seen here is the 10th hole at Inverness Club in Toledo, Ohio, which is a diagonal hazard. As you can see, cutting across the 10th, right before the 10th green is a diagonal hazard, so that you have different shot choices coming into the green. Here's an example of switchbacks. Switchbacks are when holes run side by side to one another, back to back. This is at the Beverly Country Club in Chicago, Illinois, featuring the 5th and 6th holes. This is an example of a turtleback green. It's located at the Old Elm Club in Highland Park, Illinois. A turtleback green, the highest point of the green is located somewhere in the middle, with the edges falling dramatically off the side. A punch bowl is kind of the opposite of a turtleback. The punch bowl seen here is at Lulu Country Club in Glenside, Pennsylvania. This is where there are depressions in the green and areas to put a flag. This encourages, especially on par 3s, potential hole-in-one shots to increase excitement. Here's an example of a volcano green, which is a raised, slightly turtleback green with complete runoffs into sand surrounding this. This is the Memphis Country Club in Memphis, Tennessee. Next to last is the double plateau. This is an example. This example is from Broadmoor Country Club in Indianapolis, Indiana. And the double plateau are two flat spots with a dramatic elevation change in the middle of the green at some point. So you can see where there's two plateaus here, which dramatically reduces essentially the size of the green depending on what plateau the pin is located. And then finally, probably his most prominent design philosophy is the false front. Here's an example of a false front at Plainfield Country Club in Edison, New Jersey that he designed, where this is part of the green that you can see kind of falling off in the front, but in reality, the ball is not going to be able to stay there. So it creates a much smaller surface to be able to hit to. Most of his greens are sloped back to front with a false front, so it's tough or difficult to get a ball to stick here. Utilizing these signature elements, he designed world-class, often private courses, including Aronimink in Newton Square, PA, Eastlake in Atlanta, Georgia, Seminole in North Palm Beach, Florida, Oak Hill in Pittsford, New York, which will host the 2023 PGA Championship, and Inverness, which you saw earlier from Toledo, Ohio. Most of these Ross designs maintain original elements in our celebrated courses that test even the best modern golfers and equipment. Unlike many of his contemporaries, his courses have stood the test of time. In all, he designed somewhere around 400 courses. The exact number is I have not been able to find, spanning more than 30 states, including several municipal daily fee courses utilizing WPA funds in the 1930s and 40s. His most recognized WPA project is pictured here. This is the George Wright Golf Course in Hyde Park, in the Hyde Park neighborhood of Boston, Massachusetts. The course is still owned and operated by the city of Boston, and can be played for $13 for juniors and $41 for adult residents. So starting in the 1970s to the early 2000s, many golf architects embraced the use of construction technology to move massive plots of land to establish artificial tests for modern golfers. This also included a significant lengthening of courses to adapt to club and ball technology that allows amateur and professional golfers alike to hit the ball farther and straighter than ever before. An excellent example of this architecture is the work of celebrated course architect Pete Dye. Dye is known for severe land movement and obstacles. As an example, he moved 800,000 cubic yards of sand that he had trucked in to build his signature Whistling Straits course in Kohler, Wisconsin. As the country has witnessed a drastic increase in rounds played in recent years, the lengthening and land movement has created a myriad of issues, including environmental concerns and out of control costs. To combat this, several modern architects have looked to history to help develop demanding and shorter courses, coinciding with a focus on environmental sustainability and equal access. Course design has been highlighted in popular media in recent years. Designers such as Corin Crenshaw, Gil Hans, and David McClay Kidd have implemented Ross's philosophy to design challenging, accessible, and sustainable courses that seamlessly blend with nature. Rather than moving Earth to create obstacles, they use the Earth as obstacles itself. Hans's work at a strip mine sand site in Florida and Corin Crenshaw's work on abandoned land along the Oregon coast are prime examples. Pictured here, you can see Streamsong Black in Bowling Green, Florida on the left, designed by Hans. He used the natural sandy soil and the gouged land that had been strip mined to interlay his highly acclaimed black course. On the right, you can see Bandon Trails by Corin Crenshaw. They artfully wove holes through the Oregon wilderness without manipulating the land outside of the fairways and greens. For both pictures, it becomes very clear that Ross's work and design elements have significantly influenced the design of these courses. With a renewed focus on Ross, modern golf has the potential to become more sustainable, accessible, and enjoyable. The history of American golf is ultimately intertwined with Donald J. Ross, a Scotsman who decided to come in 1899 for his first position as an architect in Boston, Massachusetts. I appreciate you taking a few minutes to listen to the presentation. If you have any questions about this work, and like I mentioned, it's a piece of work that's ongoing and has multiple layers, I'd love to talk with you. So my contact information is here. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of the conference.